Hi and welcome to Swedish Plant Guys. Today we're going to talk about taking our indoor plants and placing them outside in the summertime. Is that good for the plant? Now if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do, and hit that bell as well so you get a notification every time we put up something new. We also have a Facebook and an Instagram, so please follow us there and you will get sneak previews on upcoming videos. And of course, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps our channel a lot. Now, can we take our plants, our indoor plants, and place them outside in the summertime? That is a question we get quite often. Is there something positive in doing this? Are we helping the plant in some way? Or is it just more difficult to have it outside than inside? Now, there is something really positive in taking our plants outdoors in the summertime. We get a better and faster growth. We have thicker trunks and branches and stalks. We usually get smaller internodes, which means that our plants seem to be a lot fuller and denser. If you have a flowering plant, usually you will get a lot more flowers if you have it outdoors than when you have it indoors. And also an added positive to this is that if you've had some problems during wintertime with pests on your indoor plants, when you place them outdoors, usually that worry just goes away. You don't even have to do anything. However, there are 4 different things I want you to consider when placing your plant outdoors in the summertime. And it all has to do with the placement. That is crucial for the success by doing this. Now, starting off with number 1, and that is temperature. And this is completely dependent on what type of a plant you have. If you have a tropical plant, for instance, you cannot take that outside in summertime if you don't have the right temperature outside. And for tropical plants, the temperature needs to stay above, in between 12 to 15 degrees Celsius, which is about 55 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. If it goes below that where you live, then you should keep your tropical plants indoors. But if in summertime the temperatures are above that at all times, it is just a positive thing to move it outdoors. And also consider nighttime as well, not only daytime, because the temperature usually drops a little bit during the night. And the same thing applies there. It needs to be above those temperatures if you want your plant to thrive. And of course, do not miss when the temperature drops when autumn is coming, so that you have your plant outdoors for too long. At least here in Sweden, you can have some nights that just go way beyond those temperatures. Then it goes up again. But it can be enough with just one night where you have too low temperatures that can damage your plant. So just make sure that you are in between or above those temperatures, then you will be fine. And on the other end of that spectrum, of course, do not put your plants outside if it is too hot. Now, there is a magical limit for tropical plants, and that is you do not want to have tropical plants in pots if it goes above 40 degrees Celsius, which is about 104 degrees Fahrenheit. If you have it hotter than that, then you know that the plant is really, really struggling and it can be damaged by it. So if you are in between those temperatures, you have the perfect temperature for your tropical plants, and it's okay to move them outside. So number 2, and that is concerning the sunlight. Now, if you have your plant indoors, even if you have a plant that is standing in a southern window here in the northern hemisphere, which means that it gets hit by a lot of sunlight, when you move that plant outside and you place it in direct sunlight, it will get burnt, because it is a completely different environment indoors and outdoors. Those windows that are protecting the plant actually does quite a lot. So never ever take your plants and just place them outside in direct sunlight. What I recommend you to do is that you make a nice transition. So you take your plants, place them outside, just a couple of hours a day, put them inside again, and you do this for 1 to 2 weeks. So you make that transition from indoors to outdoors. Then usually the plant will get used to the outdoors, and it will not be stressful for the plant. With that said, there is almost no plants that you have inside that wants to have direct sunlight in the outdoors. At least not when you have them in pots like this, because that is quite stressful and it can get really, really hot on the leaves. So I recommend you to place your plant somewhere where you get a lot of indirect sunlight. Maybe 1 or 2 hours of direct sunlight, but not more than that. So a shady spot is perfect, because it's also like this. In the outdoors, even if you have a shady spot, you have more light there than you have in a very, very light spot indoors. So even if you put it in a shady spot, it will get a lot of daylight, a lot of light. Moving on to number 3, and that is of course wind. Outdoors, we have to consider the wind. And here in Sweden, it can get quite windy sometimes. And so the first thing you need to consider when placing your plant is so that it doesn't tip over, because it's really, really easy just putting it outside when it's a nice weather that day. The other day you get it quite windy, it just falls over, and you maybe you break a couple of branches, or the plant could even die. So just make sure that it cannot fall over outside. Also consider that a very windy condition actually lowers the temperature. So if you have maybe 20 degrees Celsius outside, but it's really, really windy, a hard wind, the temperature on the leaves are actually much, much lower than 20 degrees Celsius. So make sure that if you know that you are down to those limits we talked about earlier in temperature, if you have it very windy, make sure that you have it in a spot where it's quite protected from that wind, and then it's not a problem. Now the last thing about wind is that when you have hard winds that are hitting the plant, or if you just have a small breeze all day long, that actually can stress the plant, because the wind is sucking out a lot of water from the leaves. That means that your plant outdoors could actually be drinking a little bit more water than it was indoors. Even if you have the same temperature inside as outside, that small breeze is going to make your plant drink more water. So make sure that you check your plant constantly if you know that it is in a windy spot. Now number 4 is of course rain. When you place your plant outdoors in summertime, that is also something you have to consider. When it rains, it's quite easy to fill up your pot with water, especially if you do not have drainage holes in the bottom of the pot. Now we have a video about what is good drainage. If you want to go and check that out, you have that in the link above. But even if you have good drainage in your pot, you have holes in the bottom, you have good drainage in your soil, it could even mean that the rain, if it rains quite a lot, it could get too much water for your plant. So and especially if you have a plant that needs to dry out in between waterings. For instance, we have the Sansevieria, or recently called Dracena, but the Sansevieria or the CZ plant are 2 plants that really needs to dry out in between waterings. And they might not do that because of the rain. It doesn't matter how good drainage you have. If it rains all the time, they are always moist. So our recommendation is that when you put your plant outside, make sure that it is somewhere where the rain can't get to your pot. If you do that, it means that you are in control of how much water your plant is getting. So that is the easiest way to just make sure that it doesn't get too much water. So those are the 4 different things you need to consider when placing your plant outside in the summertime. You have the temperature, you have the sunlight, you have the wind, and you have the rain. If you just follow these simple instructions, your plants will thrive outside in the summer. And you will have a better plant after the summer than you would have had just keeping it indoors. Now, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And please subscribe to our channel as well so you get a notification every time we put up something new. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook where you get sneak previews on upcoming videos. And also we add a little bit extra on those channels as well. So until next time, hej då!